Thursday night again. It's Thursday, July 31st. And that means that here in the summertime, it's time for Art Pastor Live. Welcome. My name is Steve Thomas, and I am a visual artist. I am a pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and I'm a professor of spiritual formation and discipleship at Luther Seminary, where I'm also dean of the chapel. And the Art Pastor is my online ministry where I try to create a space where together we can explore spirituality and scripture through visual art and creativity. And this whole summer, I'm going live on 7 p.m. on Thursday nights just to have some fun creating an image. So what I do is for the next hour, I'm going to be creating an image from scratch. And tonight I'm going to be painting a landscape. Hey, Cindy Bailey is here. So good to see you, Cindy. Thanks for being here. And just like Cindy, if you are with me online, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, drop a note in the chat. And if you ever have any questions or comments along the way, feel free to do that. We can make this interactive. Today I'm going to be painting a landscape from a photograph that I took very recently. And it's going to be super fun. I'm going to be painting in the Procreate app on my iPad. Now, this is a contemplative practice for me. This is a way that I like to just chill out and connect with God and find some peace through the process of making an image, painting, drawing, all that stuff. So to get us started tonight, I invite you to take a deep breath with me. And I always like to light a candle to begin our session together. And the candle reminds me that it is the Spirit of God that draws us together and is the ultimate creator. So, all right, let's get going. Here's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to start off without music because I just want to explain what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to switch over and put some chill music on. It's going to be great. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull up my photos. This is my photo app on the iPad. So last Thursday, I was out for a walk near my house at a place called Keller Park and to go plein air painting. And as I was setting up my gear, check out who was there to greet me. A mom and her fawn. So cute. And I actually got a video of it. So check this out. That was a pretty cool way to begin my art session. All right, so here's a photograph of the spot that I chose to paint last week. And so what I thought it would be kind of cool is if I tried to paint this same location on my iPad from a photograph and see and compare the experience of doing that to the experience of doing it plein air, which means open air. So I cropped the photo down, and this is actually the reference that I'm going to be using. So if you would like to paint along with me, I'm going to give you a moment to either screenshot this or to take a picture of it with your phone. And you can paint this scene along with me. Or you can paint whatever you want to paint, or just sit back and let my creative process be a contemplative space for you. Okay, I'm just waiting for just another moment if you want to do that. Click away. And then I do want to just show you, this is my plein air setup. And so like right here is, this is called a pochade box. And I paint in an 8 by 8 inch square sketchbook. And I use a paint called gouache. And so there's my palette. Palettes are super messy when you're working with them, my brushes. So that's kind of cool. And then that's the actual painting that I did live. And here's a shot of the whole setup. So I've got this really nice tripod that the pochade box has a quick release and it goes right on top of it. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to uh, pick up, this is the photo that I am going to use as reference. I have it up on my iMac in front of me, so you're not going to see it while I'm painting. So I'm going to just go ahead and close my photo app. I'm going to switch over to my music, and I'm just going to get into the painting zone. So again, if you have any questions along the way, just let me know. So I'm going to be painting in Procreate tonight. And since I want to try to simulate what it was like to paint in real space, I'm going to create a new canvas. I'm going to make it a square canvas that is 8 inches wide by 8 inches high at 300 dpi, and that will give me kind of an apples to apples comparison between painting in my actual Hahnemühle sketchbook, watercolor sketchbook, versus painting on my iPad. So now I've got my image up in front of me on my iMac, and so let's get started. The brushes I'm going to use today, I'm just going to use 2 brushes. I'm going to use this Max U Gouache Thin Natural brush, and then I'm going to use a Thin Detail Gouache brush. So I'm going to use a digital gouache because I did a digital, because I did an actual gouache painting. And so out in the field, I used what's called a cadmium yellow, which is a pretty bright, intense yellow. And I just flooded. There's what I really loved about this particular image was the sunlight that was flooding in the background and then catching the trees in the foreground. And so I'm going to start just with a flood of cad yellow. And then going to do kind of a mid-tone green and just get the basic layout. So I've got this dark spot over here. In the distance, and then we have this path. Actually, I'm going to make that a little darker. And there's a dark spot right here. So when you're doing landscapes, you want to squint a lot. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of get the shapes of the values, the lights and darks. And so I've got this path. It kind of fills the foreground, goes into the background. We're just blocking out shapes. Like that. We've got some along this path. We have some little bushes in the front. And the thing when you're first starting off, it doesn't look like much. It's just more abstract blobs. and that's totally what you want. Just want to see the value shapes background. Kind of a modeled canopy up here. We've got this little outcropping there. Okay, that's my first pass. So I've got just a basic tonal map of where things are, and got this little outcropping of trees in the background that stand in contrast to this dark spot back here, and they're kind of the same value as this little right in there. So as I'm squinting, I'm noticing that one of my darkest spots is just right here in the background. Then we've got some shrubs that come along. Got this little passage of green along here, so it's very similar to this green. So I'm going to go ahead and do brush strokes horizontally because we've got this mowed grass along the path. And this goes like that. So now we're starting to see the path kind of take shape. I'm going to go ahead and throw in some grays because it's like an asphalt path. Get in here with a smaller, I don't want to get too much detail yet, but we'll get this path going along here. And it goes up a little bit and then down, and then there's a little hill right here. And you can be pretty loose when you're in these early phases. Make my brush a little bit bigger. And I'm going to try to simulate painting on real paper, so I'm not going to use all of the advantages of the digital like layers and stuff. Rich Melheim, how do you add when to change tones? How do you added when to Sorry, Rich, could you say that again? Could you type that out again for me? Because I think it's a really good question, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me. Okay. So I'm going to go back here to, I'm going to throw in some shadows here. There's a shadow that's coming across the path like this. And my shadows are playing with the light a little bit. And I've got some fun sunlight coming through there. Now, the thing that's different about gouache from watercolor is that watercolor is, you have to leave your whites white. Like if something's white, something's lighter, you have to leave it light and let the paper be the light. And so you kind of have to think, I don't know, it's a different, you have to have a lot of negative space going on with watercolor. But with gouache, it's actually ultimately an opaque medium. And so you can think more like an oil painter and go from dark to light if you want to, which is pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to use my darks to identify the shapes of the trunks. I'm going to throw in shadows here. Actually, I'm going to use the power of the opaqueness of gouache, and I am going to just throw in just the shape of the trunk. Just to kind of anchor in where my trunks are. So this is a little grove of pine trees that is in the woods by my house. And most of the trees in this park are cottonwood, or I think elm or poplar of some sort. I should be better about being able to identify tree species, but I'm not. I just like painting them. So I've got 4 basic trunks here in the foreground, and then I've got some, make them a little bit more gray. Got a couple in the middle ground back there. And I got one right there. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. Okay, so now I have my basic, I know where my trunks are. Not my swimming trunks. Oh, okay. So I'm going to choose this green, and I'm going to go darker. And see, so far I've pretty much been using like just a monochrome. I've got this little section right in here. And this is a little branch that comes and kind of forms an arch over the path. And then we've got a tree canopy in the background here. And since I'm doing a canopy, those tree patterns are pretty erratic, so I can just kind of be really sloppy, be rough, leave patches, you know. And then there's actually a branch of a tree in the background there. Got some canopy coming from above a little bit. Kind of, the whole thing's kind of framed with a canopy like that. This section in here, I'm just gonna forget about that trunk. We don't need it. And then we have a kind of a dark shadowy patch back here, this side of this trunk. And again, I'm not trying to draw details yet. I'm just trying to draw value shapes. Pretty much a monochrome painting at this point. And through here. And there's a little grove. There's a little stand of tall grasses that surrounds a pond here. And that's what's happening right here. And it goes around the corner like that. It goes back, and then so you can see the shadow on the base of those grasses. Like that. Yeah. Okay. And now this little bush here. So basically with each pass, you're getting more and more refined in detail. And so now what I want to do is use this darker tone to show the base of these up front plants right here. Kind of, they are along the base of path. Brush bigger. You want to cover the area with a darker tone, because then you're going to come over the top of it with lighter leaves. And it's funny when you're painting like this, and people walk by, you know, on the street, on the path. And in the early phases, they're like, oh, yeah, that's nice, because it doesn't look very good. And then the more detail you get, the more you get people like, wow, that's amazing. So it's kind of fun. Get to meet people out on the path. It's one of the fun things about plein air painting. And I'm getting to meet you on this path. Okay, so that's kind of a first pass. You're starting to see, it's kind of, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit of variation back here with a lighter and more gray tone, because I want to get some texture in the foliage back there. And the trees in the far, so that's like it's a forest across at the end of the path. And the more the more you use gray in your tones, it pushes them back into space. It's called desaturating your colors. And the more desaturated the colors are, the more they look distant, because it gives the illusion of being diffused through the air. Atmospheric diffusion. Yeah. I'm going to come up here to just a little bit. I want to get just a little bit of these grasses that are coming up. So they're catching the sunlight back there. There's some tall ones, but you don't want to be too detailed, because they're in the background, and so we want to draw the viewer's eye toward the foreground. All right. So speaking of drawing the viewer's eye, I think it's time to start working on these trunks. And so the trunks are of a different color. So we're gonna start playing around with a base color of burnt sienna. So on my palette, I had cadmium yellow, I had French ultramarine blue, and I had burnt sienna along with white and black. So we're going to start playing around with the burnt sienna to start rendering these trunks. And I'm resisting the urge to zoom in and get super detailed. I'm wanting it to kind of simulate if I were painting out in the field, just to see. Looks like I'm losing everybody. Not that exciting. That's all right. It's a nice summer day, nice summer evening. It's okay if nobody's with me, because I'm having fun. And maybe you're watching this video later. That's very cool if you are. If you're watching this video later in the world, drop me a note. Let me know you're watching it, what you thought. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of texture on these. Then we got this big one. Make my brush a little bit bigger. We've got those. Got these little, these are scars from where the branches have been trimmed off over the years. And so now we can start putting in some more detailed branches. So I'm gonna switch over to my thin detail and just start indicating some branches that are coming. Okay. So now I'm going to start pushing the contrast a little bit. And I'm going to come back here. And I said I used French ultramarine blue. And so I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of that in here, just to give some contrast and to create some darks. Actually lower my transparency a little bit. And simply by making that darker, it's going to make that trunk really pop out. Got this branch. Now I'm just playing with shapes of light and shadow. And again, this got dark in here. Squinting, looking where my real darks are. And we have some shadow there. Some shadow across here. I'm going to go ahead and do another pass on these shadows across the path here. We've got some bushes in the foreground over here. They're going to help frame the shadow over here. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, so I'm at 38 minutes right now, so I'm going to come back over here to my more burnt sienna, and I'm going to start going with that was my thin detail. Okay, I'm going to start throwing in some highlights, because one of the things that caught my attention was the way the sun was hitting these trunks. And I have some memory of being there. And I remember that the sun was playing all kinds of tricks. It was kind of cloudy. I mean, it was toggling back and forth between sunny and cloudy, and so I was getting all kinds of different sunlight, and there were different shadows playing up and down. Make this more opaque. This big one, background, just going to do an indication of a couple trunks in the background, like that. Just a little bit like that. And one of the things that's cool is I noticed in the shadows there was kind of a blue going on with this tree. So I just want to get some texture. And then back up here to the burnt sienna, there was also some, some really nice rust kind of colors, and that started livening up the tree. Trying to get the So I'm going to come back here to my thin natural brush, and I'm going to go down to my ultramarine, start putting in, getting the shadows of these trunks a little bit more defined, a little darker. And I'm going to also come in with some dark from the burnt sienna as well. Just keep those shadows alive. Get a little bit bolder with my shadows here. Really dig in, give some, yeah, there we go. Dig in down here at the base of I'm going to go back over here to my detail brush, and I'm going to start kind of fleshing out some branches. Like that. I'm going to come in dark here and start like stippling in some leaf branch texture just a little bit. Just to break up these spaces in here. And if anybody's a digital artist out there, you might be asking me, why aren't you just using foliage brushes? Because it looks so much cooler. It's like, that's true, but I'm just trying to emulate what it was like when I was painting it out there and just see the difference. See as the detail just kind of fades in the background. And something else that I think is important is to get some blue in the sky. So it was kind of a nice summer day. And one of the principles of painting sky is that as sky goes closer to the horizon, it gets a little lighter. Because again, atmospheric disturbance. So we can punch some sky holes into the canopy back here with a lighter blue. Like that. And I want to come over here and I want to get, there's a really distinct branch. I'm going to start popping in some details here because we're getting almost out of time. Sorry, everybody. This took a lot longer than my normal kind of thing. So here in the last few minutes, I'm gonna do some quick details that will probably make it hopefully pop just a little bit. Got a lot of branches. And got some branches that are catching highlights. Really nice branches coming. All these branches come through here. And then there was some big leaves that were happening up here in the foreground. Just gonna pop those in. Catching the light in a fun way like that. And then over here, there was some fun little detail branches in the dark just to give a little bit of interest over here. Oh my goodness. And now I'm going to come in and just going to really hit the edges of this with light, just to make the final pop of sunlight. Even just maybe a little bit of a glow. Just a little stumbling on there. Little dapples of sunlight catching the edges of these trunks. And just for fun, I'm going to come back to this, and I'm going to use the power of the digital, and I just want to try something. Just see what happens if I come in here and give it kind of a glow. Just a little bit of a glow and just a little bit of a blur. If I turn that off, does it make a difference? That's kind of fun. All right. Well, we are at 8 o'clock, and I did a painting, a landscape from beginning to end. And so here's something cool I just want to show you. I can do the time lapse replay and just show you the whole thing like this, which is pretty cool. Just watching it unfold. That's neat. What brand of gouache paint do you use? Oh, I use the Winsor & Newton gouache that I get at Wet Paint in St. Paul. Usually, I think that's what I use, Winsor & Newton. Yeah. All right, done. Well, everybody, I think we're going to call it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Let me come back over here. that was fun to paint. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this video later in the whenever, drop me a note. Let me know what you thought, and let me know if what you'd like me to paint in the future. So again, I'm Steve Thomason, the art pastor, exploring spirituality and scripture through visual art and creativity, so that together we can grow deeper in the love of God through Jesus Christ in the power of the Holy Spirit.